This past Sunday, we looked at the life of Esther. We dug into the book as we saw how Esther was prepared, how she was positioned, and how she answered her call. And I hope that you answered the call this week and you either read or listened to the book of Esther. It's wonderful. It reads like a movie. A lot of tension, a lot of drama. I recommend, if you haven't, take the 15 minutes to listen to it on the Bible app. It's worth it. We see a woman who is an orphan, who was raised by her cousin Mordecai. She has been prepared through trials, through hardships, to be able to step into this position where she is able to become queen. And when she becomes queen, it doesn't get any easier. It actually gets a little harder. She was asked to risk everything. So she risked it all. And one of her lines was, "If I die, I die. If I perish, I perish." So we talked about how God had prepared, even though God's not mentioned at all in the book of Esther, we saw his hand over her whole life. And she was prepared for such a time as that. And what I want to talk about in this overtime is I want to talk about Mordecai, the cousin Mordecai. He is step by step with Esther in this whole story. And I think it's very interesting to see the correlation and why his story is just as important as hers. He took Esther in as a young lady, as an orphan, and raised her the best he could, I'm sure, and allowed her to go, allowed her to step into this position where she could have the ear of the queen. And we don't know why at this point. But Esther then becomes queen, steps into this moment, and King Xerxes, Esther's husband, has a prime minister named Haman. And Haman comes to the king and says, "Hey, king, we've got this group of people that just acts a little differently. And they don't really listen. They don't really participate. I think we should wipe them out. I think we should take them all out." The king says, "Whatever you want." So as we look at Mordecai and Haman and the battle that these two go into, and that's where I want to dig in. I want to dig in a little bit on some of the things that Mordecai says. He says this to Esther. He says, "If you don't do it, somebody else will. But you're going to die, and all the Jews are going to die. God's will is going to be done, but we're all going to die if you don't step into this moment." That is history repeating itself. King Saul, 500 years earlier, was charged from God to wipe out the Amalekites. Saul decided he wasn't going to do that he left the king Agag alive and kept some of the best of his sheep and his flock against what God said. Why is that important? King Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. Who else was from the tribe of Benjamin? Mordecai. Mordecai was a Benjamite. Haman was an Agagite. And you guessed it, an Agagite came from King Agag, whom Saul left alive. So God commanded Saul to do something. Saul didn't do what God commanded, and now it lies on the shoulders of Mordecai. Mordecai wasn't just some random Jew placed in Persia. He was placed there for a reason, and he was placed there to finish what Saul didn't. So we can see that, as we said in the sermon on Sunday, the chains that you don't break will be there for other generations. They continue on. They carry on. And we see for 500 years that the Jewish people are still in danger. And it takes someone like Mordecai, who was rooted in his faith, who was groomed by God to be in this moment right now. And I know that some of you are in that moment right now where it feels uncomfortable. Maybe you're living out some generational sin or generational curse. You have the power in God to stop that today. You are given full authority by God to break those chains in your life today. Don't let it continue. Break it now. Because if you don't break it, your children or your children's children will still be fighting the same battles. You are prepared for such a time as this. We thank you for tuning in for this video, and we look forward to seeing you this Sunday at Sanctuary Church at 11 a.m.